What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Hawk the Five Dudes Gun, and I come to you today. Before I tell you why, I would like to say God bless you all. Be vigilant, be blessed and less stressed, and fear no evil. I come to you this evening, February 2nd, 2018. It's about 10:30 p.m. Well, let me see. Is it 10:30? Yeah, it's 10:34. Eastern Standard Time, by the way. I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I just wanted to go ahead and shout out the homeboy Prince. I'm sorry, Clean Prince Gaming. I say shout out to him because he's the reason why I'm doing this video right now. I was on my YouTube on my PS4, and I just got finished eating, and I was going to go ahead and use some medicinal right now, and I just happened to turn on YouTube, so I didn't feel like playing the game. But I was watching a video that he titled "How and Why I Quit GameStop: A Nightmare and a Warning." Let me give you guys some backdrop. I'm 35 years old. I used to work for Electronics Boutique in Plymouth Meeting Mall, also known as EB Games. And I also used to work at Store 632 for GameStop in Upper Darby. This was before the merger, before EB Games and GameStop merged companies, when I was working for EB Games. EB Games, just a small synopsis on that experience, because they weren't a part of the GameStop infrastructure, aka Funco Land. They weren't a part of that family yet. EB Games was a cool environment, but I just wanted to say the location that I worked at sucked. I was in the Plymouth Meeting Mall, upper level, and the location was great and all that, but my staff sucked. Like, my manager, Chris, was awesome. You know, Chris, if you're watching this right now and you probably don't recognize me because my hair looks weird or whatever like that to you, like back then I had my hair always low cut, you know what I'm saying, or I had braids. But for the most part, you know, he probably don't even recognize me. But Chris was an awesome manager. He was cool. He was enthusiastic. He was willing to teach if you was willing to learn. He wasn't an asshole type of manager. Even when he had to, like, you know, do his job as a manager, he wasn't a dick about it. He was a cool guy, man. God bless you, Chris. I can remember one time when Kingdom Hearts was about to come out, the very first Kingdom Hearts on PlayStation 2. And we didn't know much about the game at that point. At that time, I wasn't like pre-reading up on games, like, besides my Game Pro magazines, the EGMs, and the, not too much Game Informer, but at that time. But it was more GameStop and EGM, PS and monthly and stuff like that. I remember reading up on the game in there, but Chris was just a lot more enthusiastic about it because he actually went to the E3 that year before it came out and was able to play it and talked about it. Then we saw how thick the strategy guide for that game was, and I was like, damn, this. I thought it was just gonna be some little hunky dory kitty shit because I saw like Final Fantasy characters sprited out with like Disney characters. So I'm like, damn, this is, I don't know. And then I saw that strategy guide and it changed my outlook on it. But long story short, that game store was cool. It's just that besides Chris, and I believe his name was Evan. Yes, we got this tall white guy. He was awesome, by the way. I don't want to. I'm not trying to be classist or discriminatory. Like, oh yeah, he was a white guy. He was just. Chris was an awesome manager, and Evan came in as like an assistant manager after this guy Dave Pell was there. Dave sucked, by the way. David Pell was his name. He sucked as a manager. He didn't know what the fuck he was talking about half the time when he was at the store that we were at. And then after that, I ended up moving to Phoenixville years later, and he was ended up working at one of our the electronics boutique on Nut Road out in Phoenixville. Sucked, but anyway. Besides the employees and their stealing shit, and there was no surveillance cameras in there, that store was cool. But the GameStop that I went to a few months later, because I was working at that EB Games for about 7 months, 8 months, and then like one day, because I was living up in Upper Darby, and I was traveling pretty far to get there, I was like going into the Upper Darby store along the time where this game called The Getaway was about to come out on the PlayStation 2. And me, living right around the corner, I always had an extensive library of games, so I went around, traded some stuff in, got some credit towards the game. The next day it came out. I walked around there, got my game. It was customers in the store asking my homeboy Rich, you know, about certain games. Rich didn't play games like that, and the ones that he played really weren't the ones the customers were asking for. So, you know, long story short, he really couldn't answer the question. I ended up answering the question. To unbeknownst to me, there was the store manager, Adrian Pelzer, uh, in the store, like listening into this whole situation. And it happened several times over the next few weeks where I'd be in the store 2 or 3 times a week, just going ahead and giving up some good information. And he just offered me a job. I accepted the job. I started working there January 2nd of 2005. I was promoted February the 4th, 2005. I said 5? Yeah. Yep, 5. Because my ex-fiance was pregnant. We got pregnant in February of that year. So, yeah. Yep. I was promoted before my child was conceived. You know what I'm saying? It took me literally 4 weeks to get promoted to SGA. I was beating whole districts by myself in subscriptions and reserves. We didn't have a power-up reward card back then. We was doing subscriptions to the magazine and we was doing reserves on games. Those were the two big percentage boosters, push-ups for you. Sales trades and used products was cool, but it wasn't as forced on folks as it is now with these circle of life things they got. Our store manager was cool until I found out he was a snake. You know, and I don't mean literally like he turned into a reptile. No, he was just like a behind the scenes thief ass boy who tried to throw people under the bus. And I remember one day he told us a story about when he used to be the store manager at this little music store that was next door to the Gamestop called Suncoast, and how he used to, you know, get away with doing certain shit, this, that, and the third, and taking all these shipments and all that. And then I started seeing shit missing from our store. Then I stopped working at that store and I started coming back to visit because I was living in Phoenixville. My son was born October of 2005, and we moved to Phoenixville. Me, him, and his mother moved to Phoenixville November that same year. So I would come back to Philadelphia to visit friends and family. I end up going down to the game store or whatever like that and just hearing about certain shit that went down. One day I called because I was going to go get a job at a GameStop in Autobahn. I called up to make sure everything was cool. I went up there, everything was great. After my background check came out, it was like, yeah, man, sorry we had to let you go, this, that, and the third. It was about inventory control. I'm like, what? I don't even have access to inventory control. Because, see, SGAs don't have passwords to get inside the computer to be able to change the number of distros, what we got and what we didn't get and all that. So I'm like, hold on. So I called the main office. I called Human Resources, called Texas. Got to the bottom of that. Talked to the lady for a little while over the phone. And after she heard the store number that I worked at and who my store manager was, she put me on hold for like 15 minutes and then came back on there, told me I was in rehire status. Adrian Pelzer did this, that, and the third with the company and all of that and the third. So, you know, I come to find out that he tried to set me up. And it sucks because I was a person that had every system. I got all the games, and I work in a game store, and I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Sometimes it's not just the company, it's about the location and the demographic where you work, because some of the people that are the higher ups, like your district managers and your store managers, they be on some crooked shit. I got lots of stories that I could tell you guys about district managers who came and asked GAs to put through certain transactions, and that GA knew, like, what? And then they was smart and went and told like somebody else, and then they still end up getting screwed over, man. Once again, shout out to Clean Prince Gaming. I got way more stories about GameStop, man. I think I'm going to make this at least a weekly series where I'm going to come in and give y'all one story a week about this GameStop shit. Because on some real shit, working there for the few months that I worked there, in between EB Games and GameStop with the years in between, listen, got a lot of stories about how that shit really went down and funny things with customers and, you know, memorable moments. So I got good and bad. So I'm not just going to come here and bash it. I'm going to actually give some good times too. But I'm about to get out of here, so I don't want this video to be too much over 10 minutes and stuff like that. That being said, as always, in parting, I like to say, be blessed and less stressed. Fear no evil and stay vigilant. Do your own research. Don't ever let TV, computer, entertainers, or entertainment dictate and tell you it is what it is. It ain't. Do your own research, man. So I'll let your boy. I'll talk to y'all later.